Hey fam, welcome to Life More Abundantly, the podcast where we talk Black health like we talk everything else, real, out loud, and with love. I'm Dr. Eboni Haynes.
And I'm Dr. Tynisha Camae Drennon. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's get into today's episode.
Happy day after MLK Day, everybody. In case you didn't know, we'll give you a little facts about MLK Day. So Representative John Conyers of Michigan was the first to introduce the bill in Congress in 1968, the year MLK Jr. was assassinated. But of course, there was opposition.
Right, like there's opposition today. MLK Day took 15 years to become a national holiday, thanks to the advocacy of Stevie Wonder and the release of another national Black anthem, the Happy Birthday song, and many people petitioning.
If you didn't know, a petition for MLK Day was signed by 6 million people, and this was before electronic petitions that you could sign on your computer was even a thing.
Right. President Ronald Reagan signed the bill into law, designating the third Monday in January as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Reagan had the nerve to say this: "I would have preferred a non-holiday in King's honor, but since they seem bent on making it a national holiday, I believe the symbolism of that day is important enough that I will sign the legislation when it reaches my desk." Ninja.
And the first official observance didn't take place until 1986. And interestingly, Alabama and Mississippi also observe Robert E. Lee Day on the same day as MLK Jr. Day. Yes, I'm talking about the Confederate General, Robert E. Lee. Can you believe that?
I don't hear our president. I don't hear our current president talking about abolishing Robert E. Lee Day. I wonder why.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's not doing that. So anyway, I hope you all didn't take the day off, but really leaned into MLK Jr. Day being a day on. And I don't know if people really know where that came from, that it's supposed to be a day on day instead of a day off. So in 1994, the King Holiday and Service Act was signed into law by President Bill Clinton, and our beloved Congressman John Lewis, may he rest in peace, along with former Senator Harris Wofford, were getting into good trouble. And he crafted a bill to not only honor his legacy, but to encourage Americans to be intentional about improving their communities. And of course, our National Museum of African American History and Culture got involved, and here we are, a day on, not a day off.
I like it. So we have John Lewis to blame that we don't have a cookout on MLK Day. We go serve the hungry. Got it. Did you do anything special on this weekend, Eboni?
This weekend was busy. Let's see. I participated in the MLK Junior March organized by the DeKalb County branch of the NAACP. And I helped with training at a local church. So yeah, it was a pretty full weekend for me.
Oh, you was busy.
Yeah, just a bit. What about you? How was your weekend?
I kept my autistic son alive and my elderly mother. I feel ashamed. I'm going to donate to the cause.
Look, it seemed like every day for you was a day on, not a day off. So there you go.
Thank you. Don't judge me, people. Next year, I'm going to do better.
All right. So a couple of other things that happened on this particular day. So January 5th is most widely known for being Inauguration Day. This is the day that after a new president has been elected, this is the day they officially take office.
Last week we talked about stress. Are you trying to stress us back out with the memory of January 20th of last year? Okay. In 1870, during the Reconstruction era, AME minister, hey AME folks, and college administrator now of Alcorn State University, Reverend Hiram Revels was elected Mississippi legislator to the U.S. Senate to fill a vacancy left by Albert Brown. He was the first Black U.S. senator.
And you know what? Since Reconstruction, if my memory serves me correctly, Mississippi hasn't elected another Black senator.
I never even thought about that.
There was one after Hiram Revels, but there hasn't been one since then.
That's crazy.
At least not after Reconstruction.
Mississippi, we gonna need you to work on that.
Definitely need to work on that. On this day in 1920, the American Civil Liberties Union was founded. And in case you didn't know, the ACLU is a nonprofit civil rights organization that challenges governmental actions that violate our constitutional rights. So things like free speech, racial justice, LGBTQ plus rights, criminal justice, voting rights, and reproductive freedom. So shout out to all of our folks who are working at the ACLU on behalf of the American people.
I'm going to need the ACLU to be a little bit more visible because there's a whole lot of violations going on right now. Matter of fact, somebody called me. I got some things I want to talk about. Oh, I digress again.
No, but you know, it's a good point. So the ACLU did actually just file a lawsuit against the Trump administration for what's going on over in Minneapolis. Okay. Yeah. So with the racial profiling and the acts of ICE against the citizens in Minneapolis. So they're doing a doggone thing.
I'm so glad to hear that. All right. So now to the community calendar, the meat and bones of why we're here every week. Later this week, we're celebrating Maternal Health Awareness Day, which is a really sensitive subject, but that's close to us, especially as mothers in the Black community. And so I think we need to deal with that. And I'm excited to hear feedback from our audience about this particular topic.
Yeah, we definitely need to hear more from you all. This topic is very timely. I don't know if any of you have gotten this on your social media feeds, but Dr. Janelle Green Smith recently passed away. And while that name might not be familiar to most people, she actually was a 31-year-old certified midwife, nurse, scholar, and Black maternal health advocate. And many people knew her as the locks midwife because she wore locks. And she actually died from complications from childbirth, and it was her first child.
Wow.
Yeah. So given that this week will be recognized as Maternal Health Awareness Day, let's talk about this today.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we look at the fact she was a certified midwife, a scholar, a maternal health advocate. So she knew all the things to say. She had all the resources, and she still, right, succumbed to complications from the birth of her first child. And of course, we're not in the room to know all the ins and outs. We do know that across the board, giving birth is one of the highest rates of mortality, specifically for Black women, because the medical system does not take our pain, our complaints, our concerns seriously. We're often dismissed in the healthcare system. So it makes me nervous that this person knew the proper language and still succumbed to probably what was a preventable death.
Absolutely. The CDC actually estimates that over 80% of deaths from pregnancy or post-pregnancy are preventable. So the science is there that says that women overwhelmingly should not be dying from complications from pregnancy, yet here we are. And although we have all of this technology that we have incorporated into our healthcare system, still Black women are experiencing maternal death at higher rates than they should, given all of the advances that we have in healthcare here in our country.
Absolutely. And so we want to say, like, the number one cause of preventable things during pregnancy and delivery is due, unfortunately, it is what it is, to systemic racism and failures in care.
Yeah. And I like the fact that the American College of Nurse Midwives did make it a point to draw our attention to the fact that anytime someone like a midwife who was the maternal health expert in the US died while giving birth is heartbreaking and unacceptable. But they also highlighted that this is too often the case with Black women, regardless of their status, regardless of how much money they make, regardless of the type of social support that they have at home, regardless of their education levels, income levels. All of those things don't matter when it comes to Black women.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even as we're talking about this, I'm just reflecting back to my own pre-delivery, to my prenatal care, to my delivery experience, and then even post-care, and how I had to be a constant advocate for myself and was often dismissed to the point that I had to change hospitals. And even in the hospital I ended up giving birth in, I just was dismissed. And I happened to have a mentor who's an internist who came in and was able to flex credentials and utilize, again, the correct language to get me the care that I needed. And a lot of people don't have that. I mean, this person in particular, this young lady, knew the language for herself. And it's just like, what else do we have to do to be taken seriously? Like, we know our bodies.
And this has become, over the last couple of years, very common. I remember just a few years ago, there was a young lady who was working at the CDC who ended up passing away.
I remember that.
Right? There has been a documentary, Unnatural Causes, and they highlighted a woman who was an attorney, married, all of the things that you would think would prevent you from succumbing to complications from childbirth. Her daughter was born prematurely, and so was in the NICU for a very long time. So, there has to be a recognition of the systemic racism and all of the things that our systems are doing to make having babies more challenging for Black women, Black communities.
Absolutely. I would even go as far as to say, in this modern era, that physicians are pushing C-sections on women now, especially women of color. Our bodies are designed to give birth naturally, and certainly I'm a C-section mom. If you have to have a C-section, then those measures are in place for a reason. But for there to be no risk of complication, no pre-existing condition, to try and coerce someone to have a C-section could influence even more complications postpartum or during. And so, that's something else that needs to be taken in consideration. What is the agenda behind some of these services that are recommended? Although maternal mortality rates overall have declined in the U.S., Black women are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women.
Yeah, I have a hard time hearing that. I do. When I think back to my experiences, I have 2 sons, and I was very fortunate. I had Black doctors both times. And although my doctors were both male, they still, I feel, provided a high level of care. They definitely provided what I would consider culturally competent care. It's something important about having a doctor who looks like you, that can relate to the things that you experience out in the world, who can recommend courses of action that maybe other doctors would not know to even recommend for you. So I do feel like I was very fortunate in that I had physicians who really understood what it meant to not just be an OBGYN, but to provide this type of high level care to their own community, almost like they are providing this care to their little sister or their aunt or, someone that they're related to. It makes a difference.
I would agree. It does make a difference.
Yeah. So I have to also say, a shout out to the folks in Congress who are really leading efforts to make sure that we are, as a country, addressing policy level changes that are needed in order to address this problem. So I don't know if many people know this, but the U.S. House of Representatives actually has a Black Maternal Health Caucus that's led by Congresswoman Alma Adams and Laura Underwood. So big shout out to them for shining a light on Black maternal health crises in the U.S. and, working to adopt policies that improve outcomes for moms and babies.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and I hope our listeners are taking note on these organizations and these policies that are in place, and that you might take the time to find how you can get involved in advocacy, because it affects not just those of us who have already given birth, but for the generations to come, right? I wish that we could just say, these practices are put in place and now everything is going well. But even the new generation, the generations coming behind us, unfortunately, still succumb to these same type of microaggressions and subtle racism. I have a client in my counseling practice, a young girl, 24 years old, had her first pap smear, and it was an abnormal pap smear. And the physician she went to was like, "Oh, you could just wait another year." That sounds sus.
Very sus.
I'm going to need you to follow up and see somebody else and do all the things to make sure that you're okay, because a year down the road to have something again that was preventable or that could have been treated early because of a white doctor, it's just like, oh, you'll be all right.
Right. Especially when we have Black women who deal with gynecologic issues at a higher rate than white individuals. Yeah, we need folks to do better in recognizing that is our situation. And so when there's something abnormal, we need to jump on that right away.
Right. And the issue is that we're treated later. So our mortality rate is higher, not because we get things more often, but because we get treated later than we should have. So it's not only going to take advocacy and policy change to address this issue, but individual change and community support. Just like we said, if you got a little sister, older sister, make them check on themselves. You got to advocate. That is why we talked about this before. It's good to have somebody with you when you go to the doctor, or when you hear something that's negative, to take somebody back with you that may think of questions that you can't think of, to help advocate for you. Before getting pregnant, address chronic conditions, find the right doctor, and be completely honest with them. And I'll tell you, this really hits home for me, because when I was in my 20s, I was told I had fibroids. Okay, they were like, they're small, no big deal. When I started exhibiting symptoms from them, I saw another doctor who specializes in fibroids. And that doctor told me I had to have the fibroids removed because they were situated in my uterus in such a way that I would never be able to carry a child to term. Nobody had ever told me that. So for years, you check in, but you never said, I will never be able to carry a child to term because of where this fibroid is situated. And I thought, what if I hadn't come upon that doctor? Then I would have had miscarriage after miscarriage, thinking consciously that there's something wrong with me as a woman, or my body and all the things, which there was something wrong with my body, but something that could be cured.
Correct. Yeah. And I hear that story way too much. And, I know people personally who have struggled with getting pregnant because they had fibroids. But because of their geography, and they were in a community that didn't have a ton of Black doctors, they didn't have one who could provide them that level of culturally competent care, right? To be able to say, all right, you need to make sure that you have these fibroids removed because it is going to challenge your ability to have kids. I even know someone who lost a baby as a result of the fibroids. And so just imagine you getting really excited about the fact that you're pregnant and all the beautiful things that come with pregnancy, and then to lose your child.
Yeah.
And find out later that this fibroid that your medical professional knew about didn't get removed.
Right.
And now you have to go through the grief of losing someone. That is horrible. And no provider should want any of your patients to go through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think during pregnancy, that's why it's so important for you to find the right doctor. Take the time to find the right doctor. Even if you started care with someone and during your visits, you're feeling like they're not listening to me, they're not paying attention to me. I don't feel like they're giving me the answers that I need. They're listening to the questions that I'm asking. That's a problem.
That's right.
And so if your gut is telling you that you are, connected to the wrong provider, find another provider.
Right. It is okay to fire your doctor, even mid-course.
I fired my first doctor at 19. And it was related to a GYN issue. I had a doctor, older white man, tell me that the pain that I was experiencing was because I was experiencing a tubal pregnancy when I knew that I wasn't pregnant.
Wow.
But because he decided that I was pregnant. And although my pregnancy test was negative, he still insisted that I was experiencing a tubal pregnancy.
Right.
So even at 19, because I've always been into science and biology, if you think I'm pregnant, then you need to send me for an ultrasound to find out exactly what's going on with me. And he did. And come to find out, after 4 days of being in pain, over a weekend where the doctor's offices are closed, right? Found out that I actually had a cyst. And because of where it was located, that was the reason why I was experiencing the pain.
Wow.
It took one pill, one antibiotic, and it was gone. And because I was in an HMO at the time, you're not supposed to be able to change your primary care doctor until open enrollment season. And I advocated for myself. I told the insurance company that I had to change doctors. He could never be my doctor. And, they initially didn't want to allow me to change my primary care doctor. But eventually, I guess because I kept blowing them up so much, they were like, okay. So in the middle of the year, I was able to change my doctor.
So you had to advocate for yourself fiercely. And, and you also wonder, when are consequences imposed, for
That
people
part.
who are just either you're grossly negligent or you're grossly ignorant.
Right. Either way, it's a problem.
It's a problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, so definitely find the right provider. And nowadays we have so many options. And yes, if you are in more of a metropolitan area, you do have an easier time often of finding the right provider and also finding doulas and midwives. But it's still worth you seeking them out, even if you're not in a metro area, because you'd be surprised at how many people are now going into midwifery or becoming doulas because the need is so great. And depending on what state you're in, you may be more apt to find a midwife that's certified and also has privileges at your local hospital should you need to go in that. So you definitely want to look into those as options.
I think what you're saying is spot on, to explore what your options are, because I know when I was coming along, midwives and doulas had for lack of a better word, a mysticism about them. And of course, Western medicine doesn't want us to explore the things that have actually worked for our culture for centuries.
Exactly.
Right. And so everything is not for everybody, but I would encourage people to explore it. And you might find that something that you thought wasn't for you actually suits your needs best.
Agreed. Yeah. You mentioned earlier the need to ask questions. So definitely ask questions. Write your questions down before you go to the doctor, because I know in the past I have been one of those that, you have all these questions swirling around in your head, and then you get to the doctor's office and you're like, I know I had another question. So write the question down. It's totally fine for you to take your list of questions with you to the doctor, but I also like the recommendation that you gave to take someone with you. And that's always great, to take someone with you to ask the questions that you might forget, but then also just to provide that social support that you need while you're at the doctor's office. And then speaking of support, like sometimes you have to demand support, even from your own family, even from your own partner. Sometimes, our partners don't know exactly what we need. So we have to tell them specifically what it is that we need in order for them to help us through this very beautiful period in life.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because a lot of times people don't know what to do until you ask them or you tell them what you need. So that's why it's important. I also think, and especially in the healthcare system, it is always good for your provider to know that you have support.
Oh, yeah.
That makes a difference in your care as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like, if a woman goes to take her car to the shop, if a guy at the shop thinks that she doesn't have support, he can tell her whatever, right? But if you take your brother up there, or, a guy friend, they don't know.
That's
that,
true.
they think that you have support, so they can't just tell you whatever.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to spending all kinds of money unnecessarily. So the same is true in healthcare. When people know that you have support, and especially when they know that the person who's providing support knows something about healthcare,
Absolutely.
knows the right questions to ask,
Yeah.
right, and it's really pressing them, they're less likely to just treat you any kind of way.
Facts.
Yeah. So last week we talked about stress. And so I think one of the other things that we have to do during pregnancy is make sure that we are limiting our stress, and then making sure that the people around us are limiting our stress. Yeah, don't do the things that y'all know will stress us out.
Listen, and if she want to eat gummy bears and Haagen-Dazs, let that woman eat that. Like, ain't nobody cutting calories while we growing a baby. It's a whole life inside of me.
But in moderation, because we can't have high blood pressure and high cholesterol during pregnancy.
No point. Because preeclampsia is another thing that happens to a lot of women when they're pregnant. And in case you don't know the technical term, preeclampsia is pregnancy-induced high blood pressure.
Absolutely. And it's okay to exercise during pregnancy, right? I've heard so many stories of partners who have discouraged their partners from exercising because they think exercising is going to be bad for the baby. It's not. Exercise during pregnancy is really good, unless you have some other conditions and your doctor tells you not to exercise so strenuously.
They say it makes delivery easier.
And then just pay attention to your body. You know your body better than anyone. So if, something is not feeling right to you, something's not right.
Right.
And it's okay for you to go and get it checked out. So go and get it checked out.
Yeah, I don't care what they say. Are you a nuisance? Yeah, I am. So I can make sure I get what I need and my body is safe and my baby is safe.
Exactly.
All right. So now you done had the baby.
Girl.
We're going to talk about that. So if you've had no complications in your pregnancy, God bless you. A lot of people will be like, oh, I don't need to have my postpartum appointments. I'm good. No, you got to make those appointments to make sure you stay good.
That's right. You and your baby. Because if you are not well, you can't show up for your baby. You can't show up for anybody else in the world. You can't, do the things that you need to do. So you have to show up for your postpartum appointments. It's a must. Yeah. And again, you still need to be paying attention to your mind and your body, right? Even after you've delivered. I don't care if doctors say, oh, well, this is normal. If it doesn't feel normal, if you are concerned about it, you need to ask. And it's okay if you get a second opinion. It's your body. It's the only one you've got. So you've got to take care of it.
It's your body. I had a C-section and I remember doing all the things they said that I was supposed to do, and my incision was like, not to be gross, but it was leaking, and it wasn't just leaking blood, like it was leaking substance. And when I called the on-call doctor, they were like, oh, that's normal. And I'm like, okay. I took a shower and was like, well, let me just see. Nah, this ain't right. I never had a C-section. My mother didn't have a C-section, but this ain't right. And I ended up driving myself to the emergency room, and they're like, this ain't right. We got to pack this, and we have to do things. And it ended up becoming a perpetual thing where they actually had to teach my mom how to pack the wound until it fully healed, which was something that wasn't predicted as well. But who knows what would have happened if I was just like, well, the on-call doctor said it's fine. Like, I'll just sit here. and just keep leaking. Like, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to pay attention to your body. And if you're not getting the support that you need at one place or one doctor, one facility, it is okay to go to another place. Truly it is. I've left the emergency room before and gone to another emergency room because I ain't like how they was talking or treating me.
I know that's right. You got to do what you have to do. It is your body. So you all just keep the Smith family in prayer. We want to make sure that you all know how you can support them as well. So if you'd like to contribute to the GoFundMe for Dr. Janelle Green Smith's family, we'll make sure that the link is available for you all on socials. And also, you know, we want to make sure that as a community, we are surrounding her husband, Daquan, and new baby Eden as they are, you know, trying to figure out life without mom and wife. And so we are, as a community, going to be here in support for the entire Smith family.
Absolutely.
And just so you all know, you know, there are several other maternal awareness and health days, weeks, and months during the year. And so we are going to highlight those in April, May, and July when they come up. We will have some guests who are going to join us for those conversations. So we want to make sure that you all lock in, make sure you subscribe so that when those podcasts drop, you will be notified immediately.
All right. Well, we've talked about the heaviness of it, and now we want to get into our herbal tea.
The herbal tea segment is an opportunity for us to talk about what other people are gossiping about and offer up something beneficial to our community. So, T, what you got?
Oh, this was a tough one. So I think I would like to talk about the fact that Sinners kind of got snubbed at the Golden Globe Awards. And so we know that in Black cinema, we've gotten snubbed a lot. Doesn't matter how many times the Academy or the Golden Globes or whoever is blasted for it. There becomes a time where they're like, okay, here you go. And then we don't hear anything. And I mean, of course, all of it is subjective, but for Michael B. Jordan to play two very distinct characters, I feel like if nothing else, he should have gotten the award. Of the films that were nominated, I didn't see a performance like that from anybody else. So we got to just call the spade literally what the spade is.
We are talking about Michael B. Jordan literally playing two different roles in the movie
that had to interact with each other.
Correct.
And like an emotional bond.
It was genius, absolutely genius. And yeah, for the movie to get snubbed, it's unfortunately, it's like we're accustomed to it, but we shouldn't be accustomed to it. And we shouldn't just see our folks get nominated and get awards when they do things like sleep with white people.
That part. Congratulations to Tiana Taylor for her win. But here we go again. It's giving very much Monsters Ball. I don't know if y'all remember Halle Berry finally won an Academy Award. But here she was doing something strange for the change. No, she wasn't doing that. But she was having very non-traditional sex with a white man. And so here is Tiana Taylor and One Day After Another having very non-traditional sex with two white men.
And left her baby.
And left her baby. And was also a violent criminal.
Correct. All the stereotypes.
All the stereotypes. And that's what she won her Golden Globe for. Now, am I saying her acting abilities are not good and well and all the things? No, I'm not. But I am saying what the Academy recognizes as good portrayals when Black people win awards.
That part, yes. All right. Well, what can we take away from another snub of a Black artist?
I think this is why it is important for us to give the NAACP awards and watch the Image Awards. It's important for us to value when we're nominated and when we're honored by our people as highly, if not more, than these other systems that are in place, and to do the work, which I think Ryan Coogler does for the culture and for the brilliance of the work. Right. And that's kind of in life. We want affirmation, we want applause, but the work that we do, we have to be satisfied that we've done what we needed to do, that we've put it into the world, that we're satisfied with it, that our God is satisfied with it, and try and let that be enough.
I agree. And then I think we also have to be very intentional about supporting Black directors and producers and making sure that we are showing up for them like they are showing up for us. I was working with a group of kids earlier this week, and I asked them if they had ever seen the movie Hidden Figures, and none of them had seen the movie. And I was really disappointed in that, because not only does Hidden Figures have a phenomenal cast, but it's also telling a story of Black history and Black excellence. And so our young people need to continue to be exposed to that as well. But we can't continue to have those stories. We can't continue to have those movies. And even, the Black soap opera that's on now, Beyond the Gate, like, we can't continue to have representation on screen if we are not supporting those stories when they are put out there. So just like you go and you see the 5 sequels, how many sequels to Fast and Furious are out now?
15.
Like, just like you continue to support Fast and Furious, you need to make sure that you're out here supporting our Black artists as well.
Absolutely, because those box office dollars matter, right? They matter in terms of producing and creating budgets for films that tell our stories, or even, fictional things. One of the things that I've learned and I've shared over the course of my few years on Earth is that I don't have to like everything that Black people put out, but I do need to support it.
Correct. Yeah.
For the sake of having more stories or more representation. I like having the option of what I want to watch and seeing myself. And so even though I might not like everything, I might not agree with everything, the fact that periodically I tune in even to something that I don't like, because let's face it, I don't watch a lot of TV and movies that got colonizers in it that I didn't like. But just to continue to support the show, I want to see more people that look like me on screen and on TV is very important.
Mm-hmm. And we're already doing it. I mean, look at the work of Tyler Perry. We are accustomed to showing up for Tyler Perry, even when we feel like maybe the show is not what we expect it to be. But we understand the importance of showing up for him. We know his story, and I think that's part of it, because we know his story. We want to make sure that we are showing up because he always ensures that there is representation on the screen for us. And so just like we do that for Tyler Perry, we've got to do it for others.
Absolutely. And there are so many options right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good talk.
Woo, that episode went by kind of fast today. Yeah.
It did.
Good. All right. Well, next week we're talking about substance abuse. That's going to be a hot one.
Yeah, it's going to be heavy. But we want you to tune in anyway. And we already know you're going to have questions and comments. So send us an email or voice note at podcast@enjoylifemoreabundantly.com or visit enjoylifemoreabundantly.com/podcast.
All right, fam. That's it for today's episode. We certainly hope that you enjoyed it, that it was thought-provoking, that it was affirming. If this conversation helped you, please share it with somebody you love. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss next week.
So until then, enjoy life.
And enjoy it more abundantly.
Cheers.